And these are the two spaces where they used to paint, Gosain Ghar and Khobar Ghar. Gosain Ghar is the chamber of the god, which is dedicated for the family god or family deity, and Khobar Ghar is the bride's chamber. In the Khobar Ghar, they painted things that are related to marriage, certain paintings related to the marriage. They used to paint fertility symbols in the painting. In the Khobar Ghar, there appears different symbols that are associated with fertility, like lotus flower, lotus bud, elephant, plant, flower, pot, or snakes that are in union, or many of them, which has some kind of significance about fertility. And these elements suggest the generation of new life. And even when they are painting, they used to sing songs that are related to this tradition. Then when they are painting on the wall, they used to sing and do it. They sung songs that are related to these traditions, or which explains this tradition. So Khobar Ghar is the bridegroom's chamber, and this is a room where traditionally they used to paint. And these paintings depicted an assembly of symbolic images of lotus plant and bamboo grove. Bamboo grove is also important for them. Fishes, birds, snake in union. And these images represents the fertility and proliferation of life. So this is a Khobar Ghar image. So in the center there is a lotus, and there are so many animals, birds, sun, moon, elephant, so many things and bamboo grove. You find all of them there, which are associated with fertility rites, or they represent generation of new life. There is another painting by Padma Shri Sita Devi. She has been awarded a Padma Shri Sita Devi. Again, Shiva Parvati wedding is shown there. So it's the occasion of marriage, painted during the occasion of marriage to decorate the bridegroom's chamber. And there are certain rituals associated with Vivaha or marriage during which they paint. So it's the nuptial chamber, the room where the painting is traditionally, means if they paint on they paint on a wall, but recently they paint on canvas and paper. So they hang it on the wall of Khobar Ghar, and it is believed to be a blessing for the newly wedded couple. It's a blessing for this painting is a blessing for the newly wedded couple. The central theme of these Khobar paintings is love and prosperity. Love and prosperity. Originally, these paintings depicted an assembly of symbolic images of lotus plant, bamboo grove, fishes, birds, and snakes in union. And these images represented fertility and proliferation of life. And there used to be a tradition that newly wedded bride and groom would spend 3 nights in the Khobar Ghar without cohabiting. So they live in the Khobar Ghar, but they don't cohabit. In the sense, they don't consummate their marriage. They consummate their marriage on the 4th night, surrounded by this colorful painting, which is very symbolic of their prosperity and blessing of their new life. And bamboo is an inevitable part of Khobar, frequently stylized as this one. And bamboo is a visual play on a verbal pun. The words for lineage and for bamboo are almost identical. Bans and barns. Buns and barns. B-A-N-S and B-A-A-N-S. So there is a verbal pun, and in the painting it becomes a visual pun. The future of groom's party lineage is assured with the arrival of bride of a good family. Surya, the sun, and Chandra, the moon, Shiva are among the gods who watch and witness the marriage of the bride and groom. So in some of the paintings you identify the gods and goddesses present there. So they are the people who witness the marriage and also bless the bride and groom. And 9 planets are usually depicted. If you look at it, you find planets being depicted. So through the painting, blessings are for a successful marriage life, as that of the blessings from all these deities they receive during the marriage. Okay, so apart from the Khobar Ghar and the traditions associated with marriage, there are Chatihar, Nimkaran, Upanayan or Janoli. So these are different rituals. Chatihar is the sixth day of the birth of a child. Chatihar, invoking God to know the future of the child. So Chatihar is the sixth day of the birth of the child, invoking God to know the future of the child. They depict a certain image and invite God to write the inscription. So that, like that the Chatihar ritual goes. Upanayan or Janoli is the sacred thread. It's only for the Kayastha Brahmin. They are supposed to perform or follow auspicious practices during that. And Vivaha we already said. Vrut Katha I already mentioned. Chat Puja, Surya Puja, Rahu Puja, these are the different rituals, ritualistic traditions which they have. We are going to look at the features and characteristics of Madhubani painting. The human figures are mostly abstract and linear in manner. So if you look at the form of the painting, it is not a naturalistic way of painting, so it is a little abstract. It is mostly found abstract and it's in a linear manner. So the linearity of the painting is very dominant. The line is very much emphasized, and you find very bold composition and colors. Very in contrast to Warli and Shaurya or Pithora, you don't find that many colors as you find in Madhubani. And the linear quality is also very different in Madhubani when you compare it to Shaurya, Warli or Gaunt or Pithora painting. The divine beings are often positioned centrally in the frame, while their consorts or floral motifs are drawn in the background. And very often you find in a Madhubani painting, they don't spare any empty space. They don't spend any empty space. They fill each and every inch of the painting. Okay. So in the whole composition or design, it's all filled with some kind of designs or color. They don't leave it free. They don't leave it blank. Once the principal characters are drawn, the rest of the area is covered with some kind of geometrical shapes or some kind of decorative objects. So they first of all, when they paint, they first do the principal figures of the painting. Then there will be certain areas left that they fill with some kind of patterns, geometrical patterns or certain decorative objects in order to fill that area. So no space is left blank usually in a Madhubani painting. And the central themes in most of the paintings are love, valor, devotion, fertility, and the approach may vary, and in the modern times it has been very different in modern approach. So it is very common to see scenes of courtships and marriages and symbols of fertility and prosperity, like we already said, fish, parrot, elephant, turtle, sun, moon, bamboo tree, lotus, etc. in union and in prominence. And that is the basic features or characteristic features of Madhubani painting. And there are different styles of Madhubani painting. So when you look at Madhubani painting, it is not a single style. When we looked at Warli or Shaurya art, there was a particular style and there was no much variations. But here you find different styles. There are at least 5 styles of Madhubani painting. The first one is Kachni, the second one is Bharni, third one is Tandrik, then you find Godna and Gobar. Godna and Gobar. So these are the 5 styles of Madhubani painting, and in some of the texts I also found Geru style. So these are the 5 styles of painting which is generally recognized, and I will show you those paintings, samples of those paintings. Kachni, literally it means hatching. So Kachni is done by using delicate and fine lines to fill the painting, and no much color is used. So when we shade, we use a kind of hatching in order to shade a drawing, light and shade and all. But it is not for the purpose of shading. They use hatches in order to fill the painting. Okay, so Kachni is done using delicate and fine lines to fill the painting, and no much color is used. It might not be very vivid in color. And the second one is Bharni, which is about shading. When we say shading in the sense, in Hindi, Bharna means to fill. So they give the outline and they fill the outlines with different colors. That is Bharni. So Bharni uses solid colors to shade. So they fill the pictures with paint, and it uses black outlines and they fill it with very vibrant colors, like you see in the painting, red, yellow, green, orange, so very vibrant colors. And the third one is Tandrik. Tandrik. So where you find geometrical designs or mandala, and these paintings have a magic or religious significance, or it is connected to some magic or religious activities. So there is another example. And the motifs common to the Madhubani painting is found also in this painting. You find peacock, you find turtle, lion, fish, elephant. All these you find. Yet another one. So this is Tandrik style of painting. And this is Godna. Godna. Godna means tattoo. Literally it means tattoo. So these are symbolic paintings and are done in black. Usually done in black, and they use only very few colors, but this one is a little colorful anyway. Godna. So in this painting you will find the black is a little prominent, and they have used to fill certain areas. So this is the Godna style of painting. They are symbolic paintings done usually with black, and they use a few colors in order to fill it. And it means tattoo. Godna means tattoo. And this is the Goba style of painting. Goba. Or it is known as wash. The paper with cow means they wash the paper with cow dung, and paintings are done using earth colors. So this painting is treated with cow dung. This one is a painting made on handmade paper, and it has been treated with cow dung. And when we say this, when we speak of this different kinds of painting, different styles of Madhubani painting, you have to also understand who does what. So traditionally speaking, the Bharni, Kachni and Tandrik style of Madhubani painting were mainly done by Brahmin and Kayastha women. So the first three, Bharni, Kachni and Tandrik style of Madhubani painting was practiced mainly by the high caste people, the Brahmins or Kayastha women, who are the upper caste women of India, and their themes were generally religious. Mainly they painted religious themes. They depicted gods and goddesses in their paintings. Okay, so and the other two in this is Godna and Goba. These two styles of painting were done mainly by Dusats and some other castes like Nat, Chamar. So these are the people who are doing the Gobar and Godna kind of painting. And a German anthropologist, he was a filmmaker and also a social activist, whose name is Erika Moses. He persuaded the impoverished Dusat community to paint on paper or canvas. And he promoted their paintings, and it was a great success, and they got popularized in Japan, Europe and many other parts of the world, and also in India. So his name is Erika Moses. He was the one who initiated the Dusat community in order to paint on a different frame. And usually the Gobar style of painting is attributed to Chamar community, and the Godna kind of painting, style of painting or tattoo painting is attributed to Dusat community. That is the traditional way of attribution. And these communities, the Dusat and Chamar community, unlike the scheduled castes of the region, they have their own traditions and mythology, and they have taken up this style of painting as a profession, as a way of living. So they took up professional painting and evolved their own unique style, the Dusat and Chamars of that region. And the artists from these communities incorporated their own mythology to the painting, to their works. For example, there is a god called Salesh, and he is an important divinity in the Dusat community. So Salesh is an important divinity of the Dusat community, And this god of strength and his legends feature prominently in the work of Dusat artists. So there is a mythology about Dusat. I'll just tell you. Salesh, Moitram and Buddheshwar. Salesh, Moitram and Buddheshwar. They are three sons of a beggar woman. Salesh, Moitram and Buddheshwar. These are three sons of a beggar woman. So the legend goes like this. The myth goes like this. The myth goes like this. One day, this beggar woman was taking bath, and a lotus flower flew into the water, and she was very much afraid, and she kept herself away. But the lotus flower came twisting and turning around her. So she was very much afraid. Still the lotus was following her. The lotus flower was twisting and turning around her, and a voice was heard, like it was forecasting the future. And the lotus flower asked that beggar woman to hold water in her cloth. So she took some water in her cloth, and because that cloth was not a good one, it was a torn cloth, water drained back to the river. And this is the mythology, 3 particular drops of water turned to be lotus flowers. So the 3 drops that fell from her cloth turned to be lotus flowers. And those flowers flew into heaven. It did not remain there, they flew into heaven. And when the lady, the beggar woman, when she saw the lotus flying away to heaven, she was amazed. She wowed. Her mouths were open in wow. She could not believe what she saw. For her amusement, it flew to heaven. So her mouth were open in wonder. Her mouth was open in amazement or amusement. Then 3 drops of water went into her mouth, and she conceived 3 sons. So 3 drops of water went into her mouth, and she got conceived. And she gave birth to 3 sons. And these sons were Sailesh, Moitra, and Buddheshwar. And these sons were very powerful, and according to their legend or according to their mythology, these 3 sons of this beggar woman are the protectors of their land. So they protect their land. So Salesh is the king of the mountain and protect them in adverse conditions. And whenever there is a difficulty, they chant the name of Salesh. The Dusat people chant the name of Salesh. So if you look at the northern part of Bihar, especially in Mithila region, the Dalit people or the untouchable, Dalit people or Dalit caste have their own heroes and stories outside the classical Brahminical tradition. So among the Dusat caste, which is the watchman caste, they are numbered over 4 million in Bihar according to 2001 census. So they were numbered above 4 million according to 2001 census. And Lord Salesh is considered as revered as a hero or a demigod. And there are different stories about Salesh. So one story was printed by a British colonial officer, George Grierson. George Grierson collected a story, collected several popular stories and poems of Maithili language, and he has published it in 1882. So it tells the story of King Salesh. Grierson says, the story is known throughout the region, and that in the village one can see Salesh shrines under the pipal trees with clay figures representing the characters of the story. So according to Grierson, it's a story of love, it's a love story, and also it's a story of adventure. So can someone say the story? I shall share the text for you. Who is going to say the story today? Can somebody read it out?
If no one else is coming, I can.
Then you do it, Ayushi. You are welcome. Thank you very much.
Shailesh is appointed watchman of King's realm, and his reputation is so fierce that no one dares to commit any theft. When the queen's golden bed is stolen in the middle of a night by a bold thief, Shailesh is blamed and is in danger of losing his life. His lover, Duna Malin, uses her magic and her beauty to rescue Shailesh and help him return the golden bed to the king.
Okay, this is from one story. It's a summary of one story about him. There are many other stories. Certain legends consider him as the king of that area, and who were resisting to the Aryan invasion, and that kind of narratives are also there. So we cannot go through all the stories. You have to understand that such a story is there. And Dusat, that term literally means somebody who is impossible, to conquer. So that's the way they were understood, and they are considered as the guardians. So guardians of the land. So that is about the community of Dusats. And Rika Moses promoted them to paint, and the result was that the painting became very popular all over the world. In Europe, in the West, and also in the East, their paintings became very popular, and more people started doing the painting in a commercial way, in such a way that it can be sold, and the poverty of the people there, they were able to overcome through painting. So if you look at the painting, there are decorative elements, there are certain themes, and sometimes icons are painted, icons of gods and goddesses, and line drawing, and they are depicted on wall generally, and also on cloth and paper, and two motifs of Rahu and Ketu are also represented sometimes. Rahu, it has only head, and it is worshipped not to let illness and evil to come to their houses, Rahu, and Ketu is only body. And I will show you the image of Rahu and Ketu in their painting. Actually, we saw the paintings already. So this one is the painting of Rahu. So only head will be depicted. It has some kind of astrological significance, as you know, Rahu. And Ketu, actually I tried to find out the painting of Ketu, but I was not able to find out. But in this painting, I found somebody without head. So I assumed it could be Ketu. I can just enlarge that portion. Do you see that part? Instead of head, there is something else. So I assumed it is Ketu. I am not very certain about that. I could not find an image for that.
Sir.
Is there any?
Sir, I think the tantric god is Chinnamastika.
Okay, it's a different thing. Tantric, can you once more? Can you say once more? Explain it once more.
Sir, his tantric god is Chinnamastika.
Chinnamastika. Okay, so then I have made a mistake. Actually, the Ketu is a representation without head. At least that you understand. I could not identify an image of Ketu when I searched on internet. So when I found this, I thought this could be like that. That's why I was asking. So I have to change this slide. Thank you for telling that Chinnamastika.
Sir, this could be Ketu also, because similar representation is there.
Okay.
And from this painting, like Mithila region painting, this is Ketu. And different region, it can be Chinnamastika, but here it represents Ketu only. You are correct.
Okay. So Himanshu, can you find out a painting of Ketu which represents Ketu with some prominence?
When in these paintings, like the Mithila paintings, generally when the head is not represented, it's Ketu only. But sir, when we go to some Assam region or some other region, it will be some other representation. Chinnamastika, as Chetan Solanki is saying.
Okay, the same figure could be Ketu and also Chinnamastika. That's what you are saying.
Yes.
Okay. That's a very relevant information. Thank you on behalf of all. So you understood what is Rahu and Ketu. This is being represented in the Mithila paintings very much. And as I mentioned earlier, there are Gosain Ghar, or it is sacred chamber. There they used to paint iconic characters, the image of gods and goddesses and all. That is in general about the Madhubani painting tradition. Okay.